Hey, hey, it's Katrin, and welcome back to the show. So, today we have a very special guest for you. We are speaking with Michele Marie from Down Under about astrology, and she's going to answer all the questions that you would love to know about this new buzzword we've been hearing so much about vibrational astrology and everything else you'd love to know about your natal chart and or some of the transits that we're in. And I'm going to ask her some great questions because I don't really understand it all and I'm trying to learn it more and more. So just a little background. I met Michele through another colleague a while ago. And when she came to America, we got to spend some time together. And she is just amazing and soulful and one of the best astrologers I've ever worked with. I've had the pleasure of over the last 20 years of working with a handful, getting to know them. And Michele just blows them out of the water. So I can't wait to introduce to you. And without further ado, Michele, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much, Kat. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh,
And thank you for that lovely introduction. Uh,
oh, you're welcome.
Take
I'm
it
so
in. I'll breathe it in and receive it. Thank you.
ooh, breathe it in. Yeah, receive it. No, because you
It
really
was a
are.
great time. I just loved the time we had together. You gave so much of yourself, and we toured around and saw a few things. So that wasn't so plentiful until I met you, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, it was my pleasure and it was really delightful. And in those times we spent together, I got to hear and learn even more about vibrational astrology. And I didn't know it was a thing that was different to regular astrology or Western or Vedic or all the things. So maybe we could just start there for a minute. What is vibrational astrology and how did you get into it?
Well, I've been interested in astrology for 40 plus years and learning the same way most astrologers learn, which is to study with the same teachers and the same books and go down the same route of more of an archetypal approach. And it kind of, I felt like I was never quite sure about what to say to the client. I started off reading mainly to understand myself and my children and my relationships, of course, and it did absolutely help for that. I did some funny things like when I was in labor, looking at the time my second child or third child should be born, and sort of laying around until and slowing down the labor
Mhm.
and till a better time. And I said, oh, she can't be born till quarter past 10 at night. And funnily enough, she was born at 14 minutes past 10 at night.
Oh,
So
wow.
I went through a lovely, you know, process of understanding myself just in that birth process. But that's another story. But yeah, rather than just leaving it to the lap of the gods and what time are we born, I said I want my daughter born at this time. So it's amazing what we can do as in terms of choice and how we use astrology. So yeah, I've used it to understand people and to
Okay.
treat them the way they want to be treated, not in a way that compromises myself, but just out of respect for them.
Hmm.
So, and my grandchildren, understanding them as well. So when I came across vibrational astrology, I was talking to David Cochrane, the founder, who no longer teaches, unfortunately. But
Oh,
yeah, he's now immersing himself in research.
okay.
Vibrational astrology is research-based astrology, and he looks at extreme case sampling to come to the conclusions. And the direction it goes is to find out the core functions of the planets, the signs, the houses, and their meanings. And then you can be consistent. So, for instance, if the Cancerian energy is to protect, then that can be done in a myriad of different ways. You could be in the army protecting your country, you could be a mother protecting your children, and so on and so forth. So the archetypes play out in thousands of different ways because all human beings are so different. So
Hmm.
what it's looking at, in essence, it shows how the energy is flowing within us and how we can come into alignment with that energy. And it uses harmonic charts. So when you're born, you get a there's a snapshot of the sky at that moment you were born. And that planetary alignment becomes your blueprint for life.
Okay.
Right? So what happens is we all agree that we're energetic beings, correct? You would agree with that.
I
Of
would
course,
totally
the
agree
word.
with
Totally agree with that. We know when we walk into a room that the energy shifts. We know that we interact energetically with people. We even know that if the two of us are here and a third person walks in, we can feel that slight shift. So it's really talking about how energy flows.
Mm.
And then we get to see under the hood of that chart. So when born and there's a snapshot of the sky, that what the planets are doing and their alignments imprint themselves into the magnetic fields of the DNA. And that's like your energetic signature for life. It's like the seed is born. What is contained in that seed is contained in that chart, right? I can see how the energies are aligned in the chart, but vibrational astrology takes us under the hood. It takes us into a deeper look into the chart by multiplying or magnifying those energy fields. And you see other planets come into play. So you get a closer look. It's something like if I look at a beetle, it is a beetle. To you and I, it's a beetle. If I put it under a microscope and I magnify it, I can see the hairs on its legs. I can see more about that beetle. So vibrational astrology gives us more specificity to the chart. So we can see internal motivations. We can be sure about how the energy flows in those vibrational charts.
I love that. I love the specificity part. Like it's, and you had done a reading for me for one of my loved ones, and really looking backwards at some of the vibrational or the harmonics in the chart, if I'm understanding correctly. And you didn't know this person, it really lined up to the energies, like you said, to what had been experienced in that time. And that kind of blew me away that you could get that specific and know without knowing the person. And I'm just amazed by how informative it is. And do you feel like with that information that you're getting and that's specific to one person, that it, like you said about your children, it helps understand relationships more, or does it help decision making more? Like what is real world application for someone who would come to you to have their vibrational like astrology read or deciphered, if you will?
Well, I've got, as an example, a couple of grandchildren. And I was poking around their charts, looking deep into their energy fields. And I found one of my grandchildren had a strong 35 vibration. That's multiplying his chart by 35 times. Seeing under. And I thought, oh my God, he's got a strong 35 vibration. I said to my daughter, I said, so what we go down is to the primes. 35 is what? 5 times 7. Right? 5 is a fundamental vibration to being a well-rounded human being. It's how we play. We need to be able to play and have fun. 7 is also a fundamental vibration, and it's about how we focus, how we can shut out the world and be in our own space and without any interruptions. We like alone time with a strong 7 vibration. 5 times 7 equals 35. They love to focus and on practice. So and they find practice as play. So some of the best athletes have a strong 35 vibration. So I then picked up the phone and I said to my daughter, you've got to find what he loves, because he will immerse himself and practice for hours and love it. And I have observed him bouncing a ball, shooting hoops. He's 8. And he's playing lots of different sports and he's very sporty. And this 35 vibration had some of the planets in his chart interacting in a more specific way. So I could be more specific. I said to her, find what he loves and he will stick to it, because he had some planets like Pluto that make everything intense and passionate, so on and so forth. So yeah, you can apply it to and for my daughter, she's got lots of 5 vibrations, so she has to play and have fun.
Okay.
You know, combined with being a Gemini, if she's not playing, having fun, you can start to feel a lot of stress. So she needs to interact with life in this playful way and have some change, and she does that. But now she knows she has to do it, right? In order to be
Mothers,
happy.
yeah, to be happy. So mother's orders and vibrational astrology orders. If you want to
Yes.
be happy, you need to play more.
You need to play more. You need to play more. Don't go into stress, because there's other aspects in her chart, like a Saturn, which is like the headmaster
Mm,
opposing her sun. And that's like having the dimmers on about your light. And I
okay.
said, you got to get the magic. And she's like that. Her behavior shows me that she's
Okay.
seeking for magic. Now, we can seek magic in all sorts of ways. We might look for escapism,
Mm,
which are healthy ways of doing it. Drinking too much, taking drugs or something like that.
gotcha. So you can see, or when you talk to a person, the imbalances of how these energies are playing out, right? And do you make recommendations to people like you did with your daughter? Like, because it's your daughter, so I don't know, like if a client came to see you, what would you tell them about their energies, and do you leave
Well,
to them, or how do you work with someone?
I ask questions out of respect. I don't read like other astrologers. It's not about proving my worth as an astrologer. It's about helping the client.
Okay.
So I may see something and I say, oh, there's an energy here that says you're very attracted to beauty in a really practical, down to earth way. Do you appreciate art that has some history to it, things like that? Do you have things around your home that reflect that beauty back to you? It could be something and they go, oh my God, yes, I'm like so into art or whatever. And it gives some validation to their natural inclinations.
Okay. That's
So I was,
awesome. Go
yeah.
ahead. I would say that was one of the things I really appreciate about you when you did read for me or teach me little bits and pieces. Not that I'd ever be a reader, but you did ask questions, and you didn't try to dictate to someone. It's like you gave them information that they could use and work with and have options and really be in their own sovereignty about it. And so I love that way about you. And I think that's, maybe you could speak to this too, the energy that we're in, the energy of Aquarius, if I understand it. Um, it is more about sovereignty, isn't it? Or
The
less
Aquarian
control.
energy, yeah,
Yeah.
is more about working together as a whole. So your identity becomes connected to the group you're with.
Okay.
So there's a polarity opposite of Aquarius and Leo. Leo is more about what can I express, what can I do, what can come out of me, and what can I create. It's more
Mhm.
self-focused. And then the polar opposites, there's lots of polar opposites in astrology. The polar
Okay.
opposite Leo is I am more in this group. It is where we come together as a whole. And it's most concerned because you're talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius. That is most concerned about coming together, all these individual parts coming together to make up the whole in a healthier way. We're not all the same. We all have something unique and individual to offer.
Mhm.
Society can run with one way of doing things. There's 8+ billion people on the planet with individuals that have individual tastes and strengths and individually something to offer to the whole. And that
Okay.
needs to be encouraged. So we don't want to have our individuality stripped away.
Gotcha.
Now we're moving into more of, well, what have you got to offer to this group? And then we want to align with those groups that are more of a reflection of ourselves. So we
Mhm.
consider ourselves. So it, we can't belong to all groups. We have to find the groups and the friendships and the ideals that take us beyond ourselves, beyond that self-interest, and where we can become more. So,
Mhm.
so we're all getting a bit of a shuffle up in terms of, you know, maybe losing some friends
Mhm.
or some old lifestyle choices or relationships ending
Yeah.
and finding that we don't fit somewhere. We're like what is it, a square peg in a round hole right now. So we have to up and readjust. There's a lot of readjustments happening, and certainly a lot of reflection on relationships, because what's just happened on the 2nd of March here in Australia, I think the 1st of March for you, was that Venus went retrograde.
Can
And
you?
what that means is that we start to have more inner reflection about relationships.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting, where we would own our position, own our situation. What in me attracted this person to me? What part did I play? How did I create, promote, and allow this relationship to continue? What's Venus is our attraction to love and beauty, but why are we attracted to love and beauty? Because it feels good. We want it. So it's why it's associated with things like money and relationships and the things that we want to gain or have more of in our life. It's that attraction principle.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to, we need to right now reflect upon what it is in our lives that created our situation. And I looked at some vibrational astrology about this.
Ooh.
And so when Venus went retrograde, it was smack bang together with the moon. The moon is our connection to the past. So automatically we're going to say, what in the past created my presence?
Mm-hmm.
And with vibrational astrology, we don't just look at the planetary alignments and what's connected, we look at what's connected in between. So what planet is in between certain connections? And the planet Mercury is huge right now in planetary alignments. So that planet Mercury is about our perceptions and what we think about things and how we make associations and connections. And Mercury will be going retrograde when the eclipse is on, I think just before or just after the eclipse. So we're really going in and thinking about things. The best way to handle this energy is to take personal responsibility for it, as opposed to being the victim. You did this
Okay.
to me. Okay, they may have done something to you, but how did they get in your life in the first place? What in you allowed that energy to be attracted to you? When you think of energetic forces, we attract into our lives circumstances and situations. Of all the circumstances and situations you could have, why have you got that one? Right?
I don't want to look. No, I'm just kidding.
You know,
Yeah, so if I'm understanding correctly, the time period of Venus in retrograde is to really ask these reflective questions. Um,
yes.
and are we asking them because we want things to change, or are we just asking them just because, or is and do an additional question to that, maybe it's all lumped together, is are people intuitively feeling this, like any disruption in relationships that it would trigger this, or do they have to like know astrology and be informed that this is Venus retrograde and this would be an optimal thing to do in this time period?
I think it's really handy to know what the
Okay.
planet is doing, obviously, as an astrologer. But what usually brings people to an astrologer is some sort of crisis.
Ah, yes.
It's like anything. We don't watch our diet unless we're sick.
Right.
How conscious are you about your life? And this is a way to be conscious about energetic influences, about unseen planetary forces that are affecting us all the time. And we know that. We can see that with the moon and the way it affects the tides, right?
Mhm.
It's not just the moon, it's all of it and the way they interplay and connect. So I dare say that people will have experiences in their lives where their relationships maybe go pear-shaped, which is what we say in Australia, like pear-shaped, they go out of a nice order. And that way, it's a common saying here, but I found out it's not so common there. So you're
Never heard
learning
it before.
when your relationships go pear-shaped, you may start to look at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting the love you want. You're not getting the understanding that you want. You're not feeling like this person's fits for you and it's becoming intolerable. They do something that it's just, what do you call it? A deal breaker, you know,
Right.
and the relationship ends. It's something because these forces are big in the eclipse as well. But what I can see very clearly in the energetic field, as I said, Mercury, that planet of communication and thinking about things, is in a 5-planet pattern. So it's not just Venus retrograde, which is what astrologers are talking about. There are
Mhm.
5 planets involved with this in what's called an isotrap, an isosceles trapezoid. That's what it is.
Okay.
But Mercury sits at the top, which is like the handle of the basket, and then you have Venus and the Moon together, and on the
Mm-hmm.
other side you have the Sun,
Okay.
right? So the sun brings everything into a clear and present reality. So, you know, when the sun is shining on you, it's nowhere to hide. I just got a vision of, you know, if you were in a concentration camp and you had that big spotlight on you and you're trying to escape, it's just going to follow you. So it's bringing your relationship issues from the past and into the present, because moon is the past and sun is the present, to look at. Mercury looks at it, right? So those 3 planets, it's clear because it's a tight midpoint. And then I dived in and I said, okay, so what pattern is that planet in? That pattern in mostly, and it's in the 111th vibration.
So what
So
is
now
that?
I've magnified it by 111 times, right?
Oh, okay.
Prime number is 37 times 3. So to get the meaning for it, I have to look at what the 37 vibration means. And it's about being self-defined and having our own unique identity and being leaders. So there's a lot of energy in this with the 13 vibration and the 37 vibration. And the 13 is a lot about moving beyond mediocrity. So we want to find ourselves, right? Now, a normal astrologer is going to say, oh, Venus is in Aries. So that's very much about being self-directed, right? So this pattern with the Mercury in between the sun and the moon is in the 37 vibration. So it's about, how does this relationship support my identity? How does how do I become who I want to be and who I have been? Because we have a history that we love about ourselves. The moon is about what we want to choose because it's familiar. So the sun and the moon marrying up together, you know, with Venus involved and Mercury thinking about it, we want our relationships to enhance us. This is your life. You only have one, if we're talking about this one, right?
Right.
This is the one. You know, are you thriving in this? Are you able to become who you were born to be? Or is the past holding you back into who you were because it's familiar? You know, it's comfortable. You're being less of yourself. See, we're thinking about things like that.
Do you find that people are more common to go back into that past where it's comfortable than really move forward and, like you said, like YOLO, we have this one life, let's enjoy it. um like when people, at least when people come to you, like where do you find that they're at, generally speaking, or is there a general?
Well, you know, we attract the clients that we can serve, and I tend to attract clients that are on a path to awakening to their authentic self. So I can go there with them, because
Okay.
I think I might be too much for people who want to stay in status quo. And in the
Really?
past, Yeah, because I'm like, you're suffering. You know, there's things that need to change, right? And life is about change. So I'm not a good person to ask that, but you know, if people want to just be told that it's okay to be in you know, suffering, I'm not going to be that person. But here's the other two planets involved, right? Mercury. Maybe that's why we get along, right? So Mercury's in the middle of the two planets, Pluto and Uranus. And I know, this is why I know that all of the disruption that people are experiencing across the planet is because of these other two planets, Uranus and Pluto, sitting right between Mercury during this time. Now, let me tell you what Uranus is about. Uranus, in its core function of its energy, is about the clear and present moment now, right? That's it. It's like lightning, kaboom, and then it's finished. There's no past, there's no present.
Mm-hmm.
Future, rather. There's only a present. And then it's over. So that's the Uranian energy, very fast, very quick, and it creates sudden disruptive change. Okay? And then on the other side of this 3-planet pattern, which marries up with the moon and the sun, so we've got 5 of them, they're all the same. So they're getting impacted right now. So the Pluto energy, it doesn't change the planets it touches, it intensifies it. So my thoughts are this time right now is got a few factors. One is people saying, hang on a minute, this is not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're arcing up a little bit because those other planets, Uranus and Pluto, are in the 13 vibration. And the 13 vibration says, I'm here meant for better things. I can't stay mediocre. So we all have a gift. We all have something, a seed of potential in us. And it's pushing that to birth out. It's like you're not the things you've told yourself that are negative and quelling your light. You've not made a mistake. You have a learning experience, right? Just to change our thinking, because Mercury is the hub of all of these planets saying, look at what you're telling yourself. Look at what you're thinking, right? Because is it true? It's not a bad thing to ask yourself. Is it true? Beyond all of time, what is truth? Who am I really? I'd love to see everyone just wake up even a little bit. If you wake up just like a little hair's breadth, you're moving forward. We don't have to compare ourselves with other people who are doing other things. You're one of those 8 billion people who have something to offer. Even if you just said hello to the person down the street who has no friends and said, can I get you a bottle of water, or can I help, how's your day? Like you've just actually made a little shift in the matrix, or you made the energetic field better in your
Right.
way. That's it. Doesn't have to be, we don't all have to be the president of the United States. Although,
Let's
I'm sure a lot of people, would feel they know better, right? But we can make our imprint in our world.
Well, and that's what I love, that last part, that imprint in our world that we make, if we're in our, and whatever our energy is, but if we enhance it or improve it by following the direction of who we really are, like peeling back those layers, and it sounds of like who you're not, it sounds like that's what you're helping support people who are ready to come to you do. The ripple effect out in the world, and people don't have to necessarily be as concerned about the big picture of the world, but just their immediate world, family,
Correct.
friends, loved ones, community, everyone benefits, right? And that just continues to ripple out. So
Yeah, but the planet Mercury is involved.
okay.
Mercury is about how we think about things, what we tell ourselves. What's your internal language? What you've just had an experience of a relationship or an interaction. What did you tell yourself about that? how can you improve just about how you think about it even? And
Mm,
then experience of it will change.
right, with our different perception by asking the questions.
Well, just noticing, because retrograde planets, Mercury's going to go retrograde right at the moment the eclipse is happening. And eclipse is happening on the 14th of March. And that's a time when major, massive, and disruptive change can happen if it needs to, or massive opportunity for realignment can come, depending on
Mm,
what you need. You know, like ultimately everything that happens in your life, like it or not, is what you need to open up a new perception or experience.
mm. How was
It's
that?
unfortunate.
What?
It's an unfortunate truth, right?
Right, I was gonna say that was a tough pill for me to swallow for a long time.
Yeah.
That, yeah, everything that's happening is what we need, but we use it to grow, or we get to choose to, right? And what you had touched on earlier is like if someone's in, in the wants to stay in the suffering mode or the victim mode, they may not be your client because you're going to push them out of it, but it's all a choice, right? We get
Yeah.
to ask these questions, and it sounds like, from what I'm understanding, there are times that it's even more potent to ask, or Venus retrograde is a great time to really ask about relationships specifically. Is that what I'm understanding from you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And your part in it, how you created, promoted, and allowed this person in your life and what it's teaching you.
Mm,
It's like a ship. We all are like an amazing ship, and we have amazing sails, and we're built with craftsmanship, and we stay in harbor.
okay.
So the eclipse time will take you out of harbor where you can sail the ocean and see what you're made of. And
Mm,
I've heard it many times from people, even if it's difficult, they say it made them who they are. The
great.
difficulties, it cracks something open.
Mm-hmm.
It birthed compassion. And compassion is a big part. Like I when I see people, I talk about how their ship and how it's got all these potentials and amazingness. And oh, really? Have I got, a big sail? I've never unfurled that sail before. You know?
That's awesome. So you're a great guide. Help people guide their ship and their sails with what you do. You really are. And I love that you bring so much compassion and soul to it, as well as all the information and, understanding of the energies. Quick question, Venus retrograde, how long does that go on for?
Well, it's kicked off, right? So the
Okay.
planet, it's kicked off at 10 degrees in Aries. So we've got 360 degrees around the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and we're at 10 degrees Aries. So Aries is going to go back into Pisces. So Venus will enter into Pisces, and there's a massive, massive alignment. Where is that? Where it's going to side up next to the planet Neptune. And that's a big alignment. So it just tips into Pisces, and Neptune's there. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and it's at 29 degrees and 53 minutes, about to go into Aries,
Okay.
which is new beginnings. Neptune going into Aries is a whole new birth of out of victim mode.
Love that.
And the interesting alignments when that happens, the planet Saturn is right between the sun and the moon, 0 degrees, 0 minutes, couldn't be more exact. That tells me a lot, right? Because we're going back into Neptune, and into Pisces. Venus is our attraction principle. Neptune is unconditional love. They're going to be together at the critical end point, the critical degree, 29 degrees and 53 minutes. That's like, have you learnt your lessons, right? because we're at the end of a whole cycle, because the wheel starts at Aries 0 degrees and then at 29 degrees and 59 minutes and then goes into Aries again. So this is an end game time. This is end point. It's like time to reach in and find compassion for each other, to be of service, it softens the ego. And Neptune is the higher octave of love.
Ooh.
Now, Venus is what we want for ourselves, and Neptune takes us beyond ourselves. So they're going to be together right on, bang on, what's called the North Node, which is where we're going towards, what we're going towards.
Okay.
And how it's a new energy. So there's all this amazing stuff. We are going through a shift like you cannot believe. And Saturn's sitting in the middle of the sun and the moon going, okay, get real. Saturn strips things away, strips away the BS.
Oh, wow.
What will last beyond time. So we will be tested on who we are. Now, what is that going to be? If I want to test out an orange.
Okay. Tell me about this.
I use metaphors. If I want to test out an orange and I squeeze it, what am I going to get?
Juice.
Orange juice, orange juice.
My favorite.
If you as a human being get squeezed a little bit, comes out. What comes out is what's in there, right? That you've been holding together. Truth comes out. Saturn says, what's in there? The two luminaries, sun and moon, how the past has brought you to today and who you are today. And Saturn is in the middle, in a midpoint, 0 degrees, 0 minutes, when Venus meets Neptune at this point that says, what have you learnt about love and compassion and care and your part to play and give? You are connected to this person who's just come in front of you, is going to give you an opportunity to see what's in you. So when you meet someone, do you criticize, find fault? Or do you see their heart? Do you see it with compassion? What's in you squeezed out by these relationships that test you? There's only two energies on the planet.
Fear and love. Am I right?
Well, it's sort of, but we can go a step further on that.
Tell me.
It's love or the call for love.
Okay.
It's just a little nuance on that one. So all that bad behavior, the fear, the disorientation, the misalignments, yeah, fear comes in and rides on that energy. But that is a call for love. It comes out in the surface. It's like, wow, we need some adjustment here. So if I feel out of alignment, at my worst, ugly, not ugly looking, but ugly in my attitude or any of those sorts of behaviors, I'm like, I'm out of alignment. It's just a opportunity really to not to believe those energies, but they're saying, hey, there's a call for love here. Readjust. Imagine like a dial on a radio station. And that's what this harmonic energy is. It's you get on station and your music's beautiful. You get off station and your music is static. So and it's like, do we bemoan the station that they've got terrible music? Or do we reach over and adjust the dial? Not that it ever happens anymore, but because it's always in tune.
But that is a great analogy, that adjustment on the dial for our energy and these harmonics. I love that. I get a really strong visual. So thank you for sharing that. I feel like we could talk about astrology all day or share stories about it and things. You're really fabulous, Michele. Are there anything, like, before we start to wrap up, that you would really love people to know about astrology in and of itself, or vibrational astrology specifically?
Don't be afraid of it.
Okay.
Don't be afraid that you're going to be told something that, you know, is going to make your life worse. Go to
Mhm.
an astrologer who can read the energies in a supportive way,
Mhm.
and how you can align to them. Go to an astrologer with the highest vibration. Do everything with the highest vibration, right? We're here to lift our vibration. So, but definitely don't be afraid of it. It has been misused and
Good.
in the hands of people who use it as a fatalistic science.
Mhm.
And oh no, I have Saturn square Venus, I'm never going to find true love, things like that. No, you want an authentic love. You want authenticity in love. You want a real love. Some of the relationships that don't work are a success. Well, you figured it out. You didn't stay in a place that was going to beat you on the brow. So yeah, I would definitely say if you want a reading, go to a vibrational astrologer for a start. They're likely going to be the ones that are going to see the deeper nuances of your chart and how the energy flows, and support you to come into alignment with your own natural way of being, therefore feel happier in your own life, which is everybody's right.
Mhm. And which is what so many people want. Maybe not everybody, but people want to be happy, right? Feel joyful and
We were born happy.
Mhm.
Those babies come with a fresh start
Yeah.
and a lot of hope for their life. They know they're going to be tested, but there is a place, there's a kernel and a light within everyone equally.
Mm.
Sometimes it's a bit harder to find because just so many bad choices. But it's still in there. The light is in there, and we all have equal opportunity. We all have that soul. There's no one born without a soul. Sometimes it appears that way because, I mean, I'm not stupid. Like, you know, it might just be, God, it's just a bare flicker, but it is still there. And you can, if you have a bare flicker in a fire, you can add little leaves to it and make it a big fire, right? By nurturing it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. And so if someone resonates with you or is curious about you as an astrologer, Michelle, where can they find you and how can they reach out to you?
The best way would be via my website, I would say.
Okay.
And then you can just send a message to me and ask me what you would like. It's got all the information about my readings.
Mhm.
And the website is easy to remember. It's my name, Michele. Actually, just the way it is on the screen, Michele Marie
All right.
.life.
Dot life.
L-I, Michele Marie .life. That's it.
Awesome. And so I'll put that in the show notes too, or if you're viewing this on YouTube or Creatrix TV, we'll have Michelle Marie Life in the notes. And Michelle, I also know that from talking to you earlier, you have a program that you run or a couple different programs that people could work with you in groups or learn about astrology. Is that right? Would you like to
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have just started a 6-week uh, program, which is the basics of vibrational astrology to get people started on the fundamentals.
Mhm.
And in that program, you will learn how to read your own chart, or at least begin to read it. Because what I did find when I learned vibrational astrology, I didn't have to know all those archetypes. It's a lot quicker to learn it.
Mm.
Lot quicker to learn it because you know what everything means quite quickly, and we teach you those fundamentals in this 6-week challenge. We've just started one. There will be more, and we can take people further into learning more about the inner workings of vibrational astrology in courses 1, 2, and 3. And we've been endorsed by David Cochran, or he now calls himself Santino, and I forget his last name, but he's gone through some changes himself, and he has endorsed us as his students to get out there and teach. So that's what we're doing.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. I didn't realize you were like teaching full on then. So thank you.
The other thing too, I will be creating an app. I'm in the process of creating an app where people can learn from this app. So that'll be helpful too.
That's awesome. Then we'll have to have you back on so we can talk more and you can share about the app when it is ready and maybe different planetary alignments or things that are going on because I don't understand that. Last question before we wrap, and maybe not as astrology based, but what do you hope for people in general or the world as we do all move forward as a collective?
I am always looking for improvements. I'm always expecting improvements. I know I see the world and the difficulties that may be happening as a good thing, believe it or not, because it's shuffling up that status quo and creating change. So I'm hopeful for people just being kinder to each other and accepting each other's differences and looking at how we can work together to support co-collaboration.
That's awesome. I love that. And co-collaboration is where we're going. And I'm going to actually slip in one more question. What is your definition, Michelle, of consciousness?
My definition of consciousness? Well, it's awareness to me. It's awareness. And we have to manage our own consciousness. That is the one thing we have to do. And what we allow into it, because it's pliable and changeable. It's not a noun. It's not a thing. It's a move. It's an energetic, moving state of awareness. And the choices we make regarding what we focus upon, it's not just about what we. It's micro. I'm quite aware of my own consciousness, and it is micro awareness. It gets to that point where you just were a little tiny bit off. So the more we can focus inwardly and tap into the world we have within, because it's a vaster percentage of who we are, and it's the one thing that we keep when we leave this planet. There's a lot of focus on the outside world, and it's a lot, to me, a harsher energy. So consciousness for me is the inner game. It's inner awareness, and it's very much in alignment when it's birthed out. We birthed out of love. So this is the source. This is who I am. I'm love, and the rest is static. So coming into alignment with that loving truth and energy that I hold within is where my consciousness can grow and expand. I don't know if I've explained that well enough, but it's a hard thing to put into words.
No, and that was beautiful. And I know I completely put you on the spot. The question just came through and I wanted to ask. So I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your sentiments about that and everything you shared about astrology and vibrational astrology today. I hope it's been useful for other people, but you're a delight to have as a guest. So thank you, Michelle. Thank
I
you.
appreciate being here and you. Thank you. And to all of you who are listening, thanks for listening.